Good morning, everyone. This is Tony Tosca. I'm a San Diego City firefighter, and we are live stream right now. What we're doing is launching our COVID-19 support campaign, and this is day 2 of 19 days. We are taking contributions from our Community Responsibility Fund, a total of $57,000, $3,000 each day for 19 days. It started April 10th and will conclude on April 28th. You can find this live stream available on Facebook, San Diego City Firefighters. It's also on www.sandiegocityfirefighters.org and our Twitter account, SD Local 145. And how this came about was a lot of the firefighters, they're on the front lines and we're out there trying to do the best we can to serve people. And the community comes out and they donate food and everything to the firefighters at the stations. And a couple of our firefighters came up with the idea and said, hey, you know what? Yes, we're on the front lines. We're working. This is what we do. But let's shift that focus to the community that we serve and people that are really need it right now. And so that's what this is all about. The COVID-19 support campaign from San Diego City Firefighters, Local 145. And today with me is San Diego City Council Member District 2, Jen Campbell. And we also have CEO of Feeding San Diego, Vince Hall. And right now, we are going to turn to Vince Hall. And Vince, can you tell me about some of the great work that your organization's doing and some of the things that are being done right now?
Well, thank you so much to you, to all of Local 145 and our city firefighters. It is a great honor to have the work of Feeding San Diego recognized by people who we actually elevate to the status of hero. And I think that, you know, the community needs to be reminded once in a while that when those 911 calls come in and somebody is experiencing a medical emergency, it is our firefighters, our paramedics coming dispatched out of our fire stations who are the true first responders before anybody gets dispatched to a medical facility. So you are our heroes, and I just want to start by saluting you and thanking you. Feeding San Diego has been aggressively responding to this incredibly serious crisis that has occurred. We call it food insecurity, but it basically means that people all across our city are struggling to find enough food to eat. Many of them were dealing with this issue before COVID-19, but we have seen tens of thousands of San Diegans lose their jobs and suddenly find themselves going from what 3 weeks ago was a middle-class life to now a daily struggle to figure out how they're going to pay for rent, pay for power, pay for phone, pay for basic essentials of life. And it all starts with food. And so this incredibly generous gift coming from people we regard as heroes who are dipping into their paychecks to help their neighbors through Feeding San Diego is heartwarming, and it's inspiring, and it's going to help us to address youth hunger, which is occurring because school meals are not available to most youth. It's going to help us address senior hunger for seniors who are isolated in home and can't go to congregate meal sites like they used to. People with disabilities, people who are dealing with illness or caring for people who are dealing with illness. All of these folks, including just people who are suddenly unemployed, are going to have some hope. They're going to have access to food, and they will have our city firefighters and council member Jen Campbell to thank for it.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're happy to highlight your organization here. And, you know, it's on the large scale of things, it's not a lot of money, but, you know, the firefighters, like you said, it comes out of their paycheck. And, you know, we have a long history since 1973 supporting community-involved organizations. And hopefully, you know, this will bring forth a little bit more interest, and people can look to your website. And I want to compliment you on your website. I mean, it's easy to navigate. There's a lot of great information there. And some of the things that I saw was, like you were talking about with the people that are affected, like the military households, kids, schools that rely on those food and resources where they might not get it at home. And people that may be even hospitalized during this COVID pandemic. So can you tell me a little bit more about your website and then maybe the impacts that your organization's had as a whole to distribute this food?
Sure, I appreciate that. The website is a really valuable resource for the community, feedingsandiego.org. And when people in the community access the website, they're going to find a clickable map that shows all of our distribution points across San Diego County. And obviously, we have a lot of food distribution activity in the city of San Diego, but our distribution network stretches from San Ysidro on the south to Oceanside on the north, and all the way out to Borrego Springs in the east. So we are addressing hunger on a countywide level. There's an ability for folks to zoom into a particular neighborhood to see the distributions. They can click on any one of the distributions and they'll get a phone number. We suggest people call and just confirm the date and hour of the distribution and whether there's any restrictions. And, you know, you mentioned the military, and I just have to say that Feeding Heroes is the initiative that Feeding San Diego has been operating for years to help military families who don't choose to live in San Diego. They're stationed here. And when they get here, this really high cost of housing and this really high cost of living causes them to really struggle to balance their monthly budgets. Well, many of that balanced budget solution has relied on the military spouse having a job, which now perhaps they have lost. And so we have had to increase our support to active duty military families as well as to veterans through our Feeding Heroes initiative.
No, that's wonderful. Appreciate all the work you're doing. And I know it's probably helping people out when they need it most. And just one thing that we were talking about just previously was now the heroes are stepping up. It's everybody, the San Diegans in general. I think what I've seen and I've been impressed by is just the cooperation. Everybody's doing their due diligence, the social distancing, wearing a mask. And it's been tough for people to change to this sort of way of living. But I think I've been pretty impressed by San Diegans in general. And at this point, hey, I'm gonna pivot over to Council Member Jen Campbell, and why don't you tell us why you selected Feeding San Diego?
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank you and all the firefighters and the Firefighters Union 145. Thank you so much for doing this. You guys are so generous in every way, every day, and gosh, we just so appreciate you. And thank you for asking us on the City Council, where in our district could we help, especially with the COVID-19 outbreak, with your generous contribution. So Feeding San Diego is such a wonderful organization. We were talking with the Ocean Beach Town Council president, Mark Winkie, and he mentioned to us how they would love to have the Unified San Diego School District and Feeding San Diego help them in the OB area because they have several thousand families that are below the poverty level and need help at this time with their food. And so he suggested that you guys' generous donation should go to Feeding San Diego. And Feeding San Diego and Vince have just been so marvelous in being willing to help step up and help Ocean Beach and the Point Loma area near it. We're so grateful for that. So, you know, Feeding San Diego has maximized food rescue for many, many years. So they get leftover food from over 500 sources, and they also get from farmers. And they just do such a marvelous job in bringing food throughout our county to those of us who wouldn't have enough without them. So we really, really appreciate them, and anything we can do to help them, we're always glad to do.
Great, thank you very much. No, we're certainly happy to be collaborating with you and all the council 9 districts. But you have a unique perspective, being a retired physician. So I'm just going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit and see what you think, where we are at in San Diego as far as this curve goes with recovery. What's your general sense? You have that unique perspective.
Oh, thank you. I think we're still on the upswing. We're still getting many, many more cases each day. And until we start to see less cases, that will be good. Thank God we haven't had a horrendous amount of hundreds and hundreds of deaths, but we've had even one is too many. So thank heaven that we started early in staying in and wearing masks and taking care of each other by staying at a distance. And I find that in our neighborhood, when we go out to walk the dogs, we have our masks on and we stay our distance from our neighbors, and everybody waves at each other across the street. And, it's just nice to see the other folks, but everyone is pitching in and doing their best so that we can get to the top of this curve, over the side, and start flattening the darn thing out so we can get over this. I think as soon as we get much more massive testing, both for those who have the virus and then those who do not have it will know that they're still at risk. Those who have already had the virus, so we can check their immunoglobulins to see if they're immune, then they will know they're probably okay to go back to work. So those are the kind of things that if we'd had since the very beginning would have made this so much easier for us to bear. But now we're doing the best we can, and hopefully within a few weeks we'll have that broad spectrum testing on both the recovery and those who have the disease, and we'll be able to cope much better.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that perspective. I have one additional question for you. Since your communities are actually 3 of them have, the term beach associated with them, Ocean Beach, Pacific Beach, and Mission Beach. And a lot of those things have been closed down. It's a densely populated area, highly visited area. Is there any specific words of wisdom or things that you want to speak to about your district?
Yes, I want to say thank you. Thank you for staying in, keeping your distance from each other, wearing your masks whenever you go out. And for sure, when you go to get your groceries or your pharmacy, please wear your mask. It's always better just to wear it at all times because it protects you as well as protecting others in case you're spreading the virus. When you first get infected with the virus, you may have no symptoms whatsoever for 2 weeks, in which case you are spreading it and you don't even know it. So that's why it's so important that we wear masks.
Thank you very much. Vince, so do you have any additional comments or things you want to talk about your organization?
Well, I just want to recognize Councilmember Campbell's leadership. She represents communities that, on the one hand, have some of the more affluent neighborhoods of San Diego, but in the shadows of that affluence are people who are struggling to meet the basic necessities of life on a daily basis. And the COVID-19 crisis has put even more San Diegans in the search for those basic essentials. And, you were right, I believe, to recognize that Dr. Campbell was a family practice physician for decades before choosing to run for office. And we really benefit as a community from having somebody with her expertise in an elected leadership position at the city and helping to inform and guide the dialogue about the COVID-19 response. For us at Feeding San Diego, it means a lot to have somebody of her expertise in this role because we're in the process of not just feeding people, not just providing calories, but actually trying to nourish people, actually trying to create a healthy community. And that means that we have to do work that is even more expensive than just dealing with boxed and canned goods. We have to provide healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables to complement people's diets, to make sure people who are spending a certain amount of money on the cheapest foods, which often are not the healthiest foods, have access to the protein, the vitamin-rich, the nutrient-rich fruits and vegetables that can actually balance out their diets and create a healthy San Diego. And as people struggle through this crisis, as people recover perhaps from having been exposed to this virus, those types of realizations are more important than ever because nutrition is the fundamental building block of human health. It is the core medicine that helps everybody to thrive physically and mentally in our society. It is just such an honor for me to lead Feeding San Diego. The team of people here are responsible for all of our success. We delivered over 26 million meals to the community last year, and about half of the food was healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables. And 97% of that food was rescued food that would have otherwise gone into the landfill, which, by the way, when you put food in the landfill, it becomes the leading generator of CO2 and methane emissions from the landfill, which is really a disturbing issue with respect to climate change. So we're primarily focused on solving hunger for San Diego seniors, veterans, children, families struggling, but we also are doing it in a way that is doing something really positive and good for the environment. And during this crisis, when the firefighters are and the medical community are doing so much to help people who are so vulnerable, it's heartwarming for me to know that the firefighters and Dr. Campbell in an elected leadership position have come together to say, Feeding San Diego, we've got your back because you've got the community's back. You are working to expand that food distribution network, to get more food out into the community, and to help people solve at least one of these basic needs. And that's really what hunger is. It's the most fundamental need. And people can't be expected to solve other problems when they're dealing with hunger. You have to deal with hunger first. Then people have the capacity to address other challenges. So, you know, Tony, I can't thank you and your members enough. It is incredibly selfless that at a time when they're working more hours under more stress and in more dangerous conditions than they perhaps ever worked before, that they're dipping into their paychecks, partnering with Councilmember Campbell to help Feeding San Diego. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I couldn't agree with you more. You made some really great points about the environment, nutritional values, and I'll tell you, speaking on behalf of the San Diego City Firefighters, it's an honor for us to be a part of it, to get involved and donate whatever in any way we can. I mean, it's that's a reminder for me too. Just as I have 3 kids, and I'm fortunate and blessed to have the ability to feed my kids, and I'm still working. And it's just a reminder that some people may not. And so I'm going to make sure to be better about feeding my kids a little more nutrition valued foods in this phase. But no, I definitely appreciate it. And then Dr. Campbell, do you have any words of wisdom, additional comments you'd like to make?
Everybody, please be patient. We may have to stay in place for who knows how much longer. It's been a month now, and maybe another month, maybe another couple of months. But let's see how that curve does. Let's keep doing what we're doing because it is working. And let's give another shout out and thank you to all our public safety personnel, especially you firefighters. You guys are so great. I just love you. And I want to thank you again and again and again. And Feeding San Diego, how lucky are we that we have such a fabulous organization. You know, they started in 2007, and I think within a month or two, all of a sudden the big fires came. And they just stepped right up and got right in there and fed people. And it's just amazing what a fabulous job over all these years that Feeding San Diego has done. And we just couldn't be prouder of both the firemen and Feeding San Diego. I don't know what we'd do without you guys.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for making a great selection at Feeding San Diego, Councilmember and Dr. Campbell. And thank you, Vince, for the work that you've been doing, the great organization. I think that's going to conclude our day 2. And please stay tuned for day 3. We're going to have firefighter Jerry Muccio and Councilmember Ward. And that'll be at 11 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be sure to highlight your websites and all the live stream Twitter feeds as well. Thank you again for joining us and for choosing Feeding San Diego.
Thank you.
Thank you.